hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us this Tuesday. I have George with me again, which is great.
Hey.
I am happy to have George with me again. Julian's off on his honeymoon. For those of you that don't know, he got married last week. So Julian will be back next Tuesday, and I will be coming to you live from Pennsylvania next Tuesday. I will not be in Florida, but I will be here. So I will let all of these gentlemen introduce themselves. Dom underneath me, Primetime Treasure, has been on with us several times before, and I'm really excited. Don, the auction professor, is on with us for the first time. So thank you both for coming on, and George, thank you for co-hosting again. I am going to let Mr. Dom introduce himself.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am honored to be on this illustrious panel tonight. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. As my name indicates, I love to hunt for treasures. I hunt all over for them. I go to garage sales, estate sales, flea markets, private picks, you name it. And I even do a little retail arbitrage here and there. And I have a channel on YouTube that's dedicated to showing some of the hauls that I go about and do, some of the sales that I make from it. And also, as of this year, I've been hosting a weekly newscast about reseller news. So I'm a news junkie as well. And I run a Facebook group called the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. So thanks, everyone, for coming by again tonight. And I do shows with Don every once in a while. So every month we alternate back and forth. And so it's good to see Don here as well.
Perfect. Here is Don.
I'm Don. Yes, me and Dom have known each other for quite some time, 3-4 years or something. Been on YouTube for 4 years. I'm old school reseller. I've been reselling heading towards, almost 30 years at this point. Been in antiques since I was like a small kid. Garage sales by the age of 7 with my mom. Been a reseller for a very long time. We've got multiple stores we sell on. Like 11 different places we have revenue streams from of reselling. I do a lot of stuff, mostly vintage is what I show, but we sell across all gambits, I guess you could say. Again, I've been doing this for literally my whole life. Wasted a lot of time, used to be restaurant management and things like that. And I guess I found my way, I guess.
All right, perfect. Here's George.
Hey, I'm George, the Antique Nomad. It's nice to see all of you again. And I am a reseller in the real world more than online, but I do both. I am on eBay primarily when I do online stuff, or on my channel live sometimes. And I am really a fan of antiques and vintage. That's my mainstay. I do dabble in some other things because I conduct estate sales, so I do have to know something about newer stuff as well. And it's really fun being with this really great panel of people. I mean, so much knowledge in one place. I follow Dom, I follow Don. That's going to be fun for our audience, Dom and Don. And then I, of course, know Kat, and we're going to do, I'm going to be a guest at her camp next month. So it's fun. I love all aspects of this business, and I've been doing it a long time too.
Perfect. Yeah, it's crazy. We're like only 3 weeks away. I have to get all my stuff together. That's what I'll be doing while I'm in Pennsylvania, is getting stuff together. So Duncan is not, I don't know where Duncan is. Duncan normally is our first question, but Duncan is not here. So Miss Patty from Patty's Garden and Vintage has our first question. And she wants to know, are Sarah Coventry, Monet, and others becoming collectible brands of jewelry?
You know, a few years ago, I would have been completely clueless in answering that question, but that is the value of expanding into new niches. And I have to thank Kat for that, because when I had Kat on my show a few years ago, Mrs. Primetime was watching, and she decided to get into sourcing online. And also, you know, she goes to estate sales with me as well. And one of the areas she started getting into more was jewelry. So we've learned a lot about jewelry together over the past 2 years. And I could just tell you from processing the orders that the Monet and the Sarah Coventry stuff does sell well. And there's lots of other brands that we do well with. Costume jewelry, another good brand is JJ. We do great with that. But there's just so many of them out there. It's crazy, but it's such a great area to get into because you could source it in gigantic lots. If you want to take the time to just piece it out, That's the thing. That's what gets a lot of people. They don't want to take the time to do that. But if you piece it out, you can find some gems in there that even, Goodwill misses or some other place misses that sells them in bulk lots. And, we found $100 pieces, and, it's just been great. And they're pretty easy to list, and they're really easy to ship. I mean, everything's pretty much going to go out first class. So I love it. It's a great area to get into. So pass it on to you, Don. Wait right there, because I know you do jewelry as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Those names I've been selling for 20 plus years. I literally just sold a Monet piece. They just left feedback like today. So I sell those brands for, at least 20 years, all those brands. Sarah Coventry used to be a lot better 15, 20 years ago. Monet as well, too, because a lot of people didn't mess with. Those are like almost 5 and dime, some of the items they make. Plus, they also have high-end pieces. Monet has designer. Our favorite is Corocraft. If I ever run into that, those are my favorites with the Pegasus. I mean, I love the earlier 50s. Corocraft, though, has always been our favorite. The Christmas tree ones are the ones I usually run into the most, or the flower baskets. I love the Coro ones. I guess those are my favorite. Those are great names. Not as much as they used to be, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that is definitely true. And what Don said, there are different brands that are actually more valuable. Sarah Coventry, in particular, was a home sales brand. So like a Tupperware Party, or Judy Lee was another jewelry maker. They were a little more down market, but you would take them to your friend's house, or have your friends come over to your house, and you'd have a big party and you'd sell them jewelry. So they didn't make as wide a line as some of the other jewelry makers. And they were, a little more downscale, but there's certain things they did that are really good that always sell, that you see a lot. But there's other brands that are really, really valuable, and it's really worth spending some time with costume jewelry if you like it. I never imagined. It's so funny. This question is with 3 guys, but I never actually thought I would be interested in costume jewelry, but I was really into glass. And a friend of mine retired out of the business and said, I need you to sell off my costume jewelry. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. And then someone pointed out, they gave me a little tutorial and pointed out how, Swarovski made some of the crystals, and this is made in Czechoslovakia, and all the glass beads were cut and faceted there. And once it was connected to something I already liked, then I really got into it. And it turns out jewelry is really interesting.
Yeah, definitely it is. Yes.
Well,
Yeah, and I like it for the lot aspect and the hunting, just like Dom was saying. Like, I love the big jewelry lot. And if you guys know, I got all my crabs and I made like $3,000 off them. I paid $2 each and had several pieces worth $300 and $400. Corocraft was one of them, a Corocraft crab. And I'm looking through, I sold a Florenza set for almost 300. So that's a brand. I sold a couple of Monets for 50. My Sarah Coventry I've sourced has not done well for me. It's been like the $10 mark. So I haven't found great Sarah Coventry. And then Joseph of Hollywood, that one sold for over 200 as well. I just thought my high dollar crab ones have fallen off. It's been over 3 months. But I pick up, I like the lots and finding them. And like Dom said, you can get them cheap, and then just research is the big thing. Like all of those, I paid $2 a piece. But yeah, I go in spurts on my jewelry. Sorry, Dom, I know you were going to say something.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, I was just going to say, related to what George said, he's like 3 guys talking about jewelry. But I brought up that point many times before, which is that I think it's really important as you're developing your reselling to start crossing over into areas that traditionally go into the opposite gender, no matter what gender, role you affiliate with. Because if not, you're knocking out an entire class of items. And that's come in very helpful for me at garage sales, for example. When I've gone to some that I traditionally would have walked away from, but then I go and I say, wait a minute, I know about those handbags, for example, because Mrs. Primetime taught me about them. So now I know that those are valuable. I should look for those and grab those. And so, wow, look at that. I just grabbed 3 items I ordinarily would have missed. And it goes both ways, but I think that's something that people should consider doing as the new garage sale season is coming around for most people.
Dolls are
that's like
another.
the golf clubs too. Oh, go ahead, Don.
I was just gonna say I mess with dolls. My wife was Barbie doll person, so I know all the Barbie dolls. I'll mess with vintage dolls in general, porcelain, ceramic, composition. I've repaired them even, for crying out loud. We mess with anything in any line. I don't care what it is. If it's vintage, it's early. I don't care if it's male, female, whoever it's for. I don't care. I get the historical aspect is exciting to me. I love those old stuff. I love the ones like teddy bears stuffed with straw. I mean, those are exciting, or the little button on the ear. Any of that kind of stuff really is a big turn on to some extent, because it's awesome stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like dollhouse miniatures, and
I
that's
love
'cause-
miniatures. Those are one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I
me
make
too.
my own.
I had a train set when I was a kid. It sort
Me
of
too.
feels like the same thing, or making models. And oh, by the way, I noticed Yvonne. Thank you very much for
I
thinking that
see
we're
Yvonne.
interesting.
Yeah. Listen, except me. What about me, Yvonne? She said, look at this guest of this is a great, great panel. I'm really happy to have these guys here. Yvonne, thank you so much. I'm going to give Yvonne a dolphin. Super cute. Yvonne's just happy because now I quit my job and we can do it the first Wednesday of every month. Our sale was rotating on Kat's first Wednesday off. So now we can actually do the first Wednesday of every month and have a set time versus you never know when Kat's off work. All right, we have a question for Dawn. What would it take you in your business to move your model away from paper, buttons, and other smalls?
That's only the model I share, I should say. We do everything else too. I RA, you'll see me scanning if you go local stores. I've been run out of my share of Targets and stuff, so I sell everything. I don't care if it's new, old. I do wholesale. We buy in bulk. I've done the only things I don't mess with clothing anymore at all. I'm so much happier. And I don't do any returns. I don't buy pallets or any of that stuff. I've done it in the past. I'll buy NOS pallets. We've done the best in like pet supplies and stuff, but I share what's not going to risk my business, and vintage and antiques wouldn't risk my business. The majority of what we do, eBay is 40% of our business. So the majority of what I do is not eBay. I just only show eBay. So there's nothing that I'm not getting into other than clothing. I do records. We've got 400,000 records. So, I mean, I'm on quite a few other sites. Let's just put it that way.
That's funny because I did pallets and I stopped except for when I see new old stock occasionally. That's my only exception now as well.
Hate the pallets.
Couldn't do it.
I could actually add something to that. I think that as YouTubers and as people who have a lot of presence on social media, I think we have our topics that we enjoy talking about more than others, or that we're more well known for, especially if it's something that's different that most people don't do in the reselling community. So for me, for example, as most people know, it would be comic books. The interesting thing is that I get stereotyped as that I only sell comic books. And I'm like, wait, if you go back and watch most of my What's Sold videos that I've done for years, while every one of them will have comics in them, the vast majority of the items are actually non-comic book items. Now, it turns out the next What's Sold video that I have coming out is mostly comic book stuff, but traditionally that's not been the case. And if you go to my eBay store, you'll find tons of other stuff there besides comics. So, just something for the audience to keep in mind is that we do sell a lot of other things beyond what we sometimes are most known for, I guess.
Well, and look at his wall. It's obvious he keeps the comics.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into Jeremy's question for Dom. Is there anything that you flat out refuse to sell other than the gross ball jars from a month ago?
That was funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not going to sell anything that's going to violate eBay's policies. So you definitely want to stay away from counterfeit items, which I know we do have a bunch of new people that are in the chat, sometimes. And so that's an important topic to bring up, because I can't tell you, it surprises me how many times I hear people tell me who are new that they think it's okay to sell counterfeit items as long as you disclose it. And it's not. You can't do that. You'll get in a lot of trouble, especially with eBay. But beyond that, I mean, I tend to stay away from NASCAR stuff because it just is usually so overproduced that there's exceptions to everything. If I were to find a rare NASCAR piece that, actually did have value, there was comps behind it. But normally when I see it, I stay away from it. I normally stay away from Avon stuff, although I do know there is some valuable Avon stuff out there, but a lot of it, and not there's not that much. I know every once in a while someone will, because people know I say that, so every once in a while someone will send me something to show me there's an exception. I know, but besides those exceptions, let's see, there's a few other things, but generally, I mean, I keep my mind open to most things. Main thing is just don't want to put anything up that's going to break eBay's policies. So no like explicit adult oriented stuff that's going to go against their policies, as an example.
Yeah. Richard wants to know, for all of us, how do you think the new USPS shipping surcharge will affect sales?
I don't know. First of all, I do know about the surcharge. I have not seen the surcharge be levied against me in any way. I don't know anyone who it has happened to. I've heard some people talk about, well, if this is eBay going to cover this surcharge if this starts happening to sellers. So I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't experienced it. I'm curious to hear if you guys have, but I have not. And I do send out big items sometimes, but I haven't seen it yet.
Now, I personally, I'm just going to wait and see, because eBay has their own shipping methods that aren't used anywhere else,
Yeah.
like the first class shipping. So until eBay does anything, I'm not going to worry about it, because eBay would have to process it in the shipping system. Especially, we use bulk shipping, so it's got to be added in there. And if they add it in there, they have to create a notice and they have to announce it on the page. So until they do that, I don't think I think it was delayed. I don't think it actually starts yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's the end of April, the last I heard.
And it might not even start. We don't know, because they're still fighting over the whole approval of the new trucks and all that other stuff that's going on. So I'm really not even paying attention until eBay announces it, because eBay has to. If they're going to force us to pay it, it's going to have to include a warning stating that, hey, they'll have to do a size increment. If you do bulk, anybody who does bulk probably sees sometimes where it gives you the size dimensions, and they got to give you a notice, and it's got to have another line that will charge an extra fee.
Yeah. I think they planned on starting it by now, but it hasn't gone.
They extend. There was a thing. They extended it because they couldn't figure out how to get it in. We use the post office's website too to ship things on rare occasions, but we open up cases, and with our account there, you get an update on the notifications for it. I haven't seen any notifications that it started yet. So.
Yeah, I haven't either. And to be honest, the parcel select, which a lot of my customers seem to be choosing now, is actually seeming to be cheaper than things were last year. So if there's a surcharge, honestly, I think it's still going to be kind of in the realm of what people expect, right? I mean, I realize there might be expense to us as sellers. And if there is, well, unfortunately, we have to pass that on somehow. But honestly, I think the real moral of the story to me is sell better things for more money, where the shipping is less of a percentage of the cost. If you're selling low end stuff where a surcharge in shipping is going to really affect your profit or what the customer is paying, you might be in the wrong part of the business.
So true. And George, that actually was a specific thing that USPS purposely changed recently, was to make the parcel select service so it actually functions like a value parcel select service should, which it wasn't in the past. There were times where you would select parcel select and it came out almost identical, sometimes even more expensive than priority, which is completely against what it's supposed to be. So now it's more in line with how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'm not going to worry about it until we see it coming through either. Typically with my bigger items, which would get hit with the surcharge, the profit's there where either the buyer wouldn't mind paying it or I'm not going to, because most of my big items are higher dollar. Like I've been trying to do more smalls, and those will go first class and not be affected. Jeremy's getting a question for everybody individually. So for George, have you ever dabbled or thought of dabbling in commercial non-vintage retail arbitrage?
On rare occasion, I have. I'm more likely to deal in non-vintage items if it's for a client where I'm taking a consignment, and in order to get the vintage items, I have to take the non-vintage, or because I look at the non-vintage and recognize from estate sale experience or other YouTubers or eBayers or whoever that, oh yeah, that's worth money and I really need to get that money for this person. So as far as retail arbitrage, no, it's not that it's not valid. I mean, I know I used to get notices from show meat pickers, and he's like, go to Walmart right now and you can buy this and flip it and you'll get this much money. And it all sounded good. But to be honest with you, when you're in the vintage business for a while, you end up with enough inventory that you stop chasing every dollar. It's not that it's not valid. It's just that you just don't have to do everything, and you can't. So at some point you start to pick.
All right, I'm going to click both of these because she followed up with clarification. River Acres Resellers, what's the minimum price you offer to sell to international buyers? And then she's saying, like, at what sales dollar amount do you turn on international sales?
For me, I do the global shipping program, so it doesn't really matter. It's the same as if I was dealing with US buyers. Because it's just going to ship over to Kentucky. George, do you have anything to do with the global shipping program since you're over there? I'm just kidding.
Well, you would think it would make it better, but I've got to tell you, I'm kind of mad at them because they have broken two really expensive things that were packed really well that would have survived domestic shipping, and they didn't survive eBay. And I'm a little jaundiced about them right now. So to me,
they covered the loss, though, did they not?
They covered the loss. That was fine, but I really felt bad for two international customers. What they didn't cover, and this was a real problem, was a big fat customs fee. And that was a difficulty because then the customer's looking at me like, are you going to pay for customs? And I'm like, well, and I did, but I had to put something in my listing saying I cannot reimburse the customs fee if something happens after it happened a second time. So
wow.
eBay didn't cover the customs fee on that one?
Nope.
That's not what their policy technically states, I would gather from what I read. I think we've gotten into that with them once before as well.
Yeah, I think I could have gotten it in with them, but it wasn't that much money, and I just decided I'd rather make the customer happy and move on than spend my time fighting it, but I probably should have.
Yeah, we ship whatever too. I don't care if it's, I don't list anything under $10, $15 anyway, but everything we list, I would ship anywhere. Again, we ship to, 9 countries straight via first class international up to 4 pounds, because it can only go up to 4 pounds. And then we do still use global shipping. One thing we do is we change our shipping policy. So in the US, it's free shipping, free return shipping. They can send it back or whatever. But if it's overseas, the buyer always pays for return shipping. That's what we do. And then again, with global shipping, just like George was saying there, we do use the global shipping, and they've covered the 1 or 2 losses that we've ever had. In fact, we had to, there's a big block on toys, vintage toys. You can't send anything to Italy right now. And there was some issues with that, and eBay actually covered it all. I was really surprised. They gave the guy his money back. I got to keep the money. I don't know how eBay figured that out, but I got the item back on top of it through the global shipping program. It was a Bo Duke action figure, Amigo from the 70s, or 82, I guess it would be.
And if River Acres resellers would look for a number, we just like Don, we don't have anything in our store less than $10. So
yeah, bare bones minimum. I don't think nowadays we try to list $14.99 or higher.
Yeah,
but I got employees, so it's not like
Well, and honestly, I don't think a lot of international buyers are going to pay all the extra costs to get a $10 item to them.
You'd be surprised that almost every day of the week somebody buys.
I'm going to counter that.
Really?
I'm going to counter that.
Interesting.
They paying $15 to get it to England, and they're buying like an $8-10 postcard.
It is weird. It happened. You know what happens a lot with me with ties? They'll spend all this money to get a tie, and it's like, I'm like, wow, I can't believe they're spending like $40 for a tie. But, whatever.
Wow,
So
really
I sell
interesting.
DVDs for $5 and they go international all the time. So I offer international on everything, and I have $5 items, mainly the DVDs because I bought them in bulk and could process them real fast. But I do standard international up to $50, so it's like $10 to $13 for the DVDs. And then I'll do global shipping if it's over $50 just to protect myself. There is insurance with standard international, but it's like filling out paperwork and not worth my time. So I've had, I think, one issue with standard, and I just was like, it's $30, whatever, let it go, and I refunded.
You don't get all your money back with that either. There's fees associated with it. So you'll get about 78% of all your money back when you go through eBay's international, global, whatever it is. Not the global
it's some like side contractor that they like contracted out to do it a little bit cheaper.
We filled out the form. They did give us the money, the percentage minus their fee.
Yeah, mine, I was just like, I mean, it was, I feel like under like a $20 item. This is funny. Jeremy wants to know if Dawn mentored me, would I ever try selling postcards again? The answer is no, because I didn't like them. So I think it's really important to be interested in them. And I tried them. And I think one of the reasons I didn't do well with them is because it didn't really interest me. So, and it's not really stirring the pot. I think there are like several, like you're going to find stuff like Don said he hates clothes. I do clothes. And not a lot. I'm not like a giant fan of clothes, but I'm a giant fan of $1 buys. And I have places near me I can get $1 clothes and sell them for $20 and have my listers list them really easy. So they're kind of like a quick turnover for me. But I love the old photos now. The old photos and ephemera I love, but the postcards, for whatever reason, I couldn't get into them.
What about comics? What about comic books?
I tried those too and couldn't get into them. Dom I tried, and same thing. And now that's not saying I wouldn't like look at some if I came across them and research them, because I'm not gonna just like toss away. So if I came into them, but they're not something, I feel like your eyes get trained towards what you like and what you're looking for. And like, if you notice, some days you'll go out sourcing and you see tons of one item. And I think that's because you're looking for it. And there's probably so much else around, like Don was saying, like the purses and jewelry that like before he wouldn't even look. So I would look at them. But it would take a lot. It would take a lot for me. For postcards or comics.
George, do you do anything with postcards or comics?
Oh, yeah, I love postcards. I even did a video on old postcards really early on because I ended up with a bunch of golden era from the 1907 to 1915 period, and they were really great. But I like postcards because they're easy to ship. So to me, I like postcards and paper ephemera in general because of that, if it's small and easy to mail. And I find them interesting, but I agree with what Kat says. If it's not your bag, it doesn't matter what it is. Just because everyone else is selling it doesn't mean you need to, because you have your choice of everything made in the entire universe. So, you know,
right, there's like so much stuff. There's so much stuff. And like Dom was saying, like him with the comics, and like for me, I think everybody knows like I love like my Native American and pottery. So like they'll come to me for that. But I sell everything. Those are just like things that I absolutely love and I'm interested in. So I think it comes across in our videos what our passion is, you know, like what we really love to sell. And then they're, you know, but we're a business, like Don said, you know, doing all this different stuff. Like it's about making money, but then like on a video, I'm going to talk about more of what I love versus like all the other stuff that I'm doing. And I agree. Like we need to have all of these different revenue streams, because if something happens to one, or if sales are down in one place, you need to have them going on somewhere else.
Well, you know,
this one is, oh, go ahead, Dom.
Just gonna say with like postcards, I wasn't honestly really, I love postcards and stuff, but I wasn't sold on selling them until I figured out that I could list more of those than pretty much anything else we sell, because you can get like 56, 57 of those up in an hour, the duplex scanners. So when you compare dollar for dollar how much amount of merchandise I can list in an hour, postcards and buttons are like the top of the list. And I love the fact of, again, like George, simplicity, the ease of shipping. It's always the same weight. It's always the same package. I mean, it's like clockwork. They store easily. And I mean, that sold it on me. I wasn't sold on selling them. I'd rather sell vintage toys all the time, Star Wars and Migos and Marks and, Johnny West or whatever the case may be. That would be my perfect choice, but it's not available all the time. George would know. I can see him smiling up there now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, postcards.
Yeah, being able to get stuff is important too. Like, you have to be able to get this stuff. Like, I would love to sell like the vintage rock and like T-shirts and all that, but I don't find them. I do
buy those. I buy concert shirts and leather jackets because I collect leather jackets. I got like 60 of them now, but the concert shirts I keep now. I started keeping them. I found an Aerosmith one that I went to the concert from a local place up here. I spent some good money on it just because I went to that concert, so I had to have the shirt.
Don, I'm going to suggest you bust out an occasional leather jacket here or there on the show. I think
I can grab one right now if you want to see a neat one.
Sure, cool. Go ahead.
It'll take me a minute to hang on.
All right, we might need another Don and Dom Don and Dom clarification for the chat, because I see a lot of confusion in there about who's who.
All right, so Dom is the one sitting underneath me. Dom is Primetime Treasure Hunter with an M, and Dawn is who's sitting next to him, who's going to be in a leather jacket now. Deborah wants to know from me, what am I doing differently now that you're full-time, and have you set new goals for yourself? I honestly am not doing much differently, because I was full speed ahead before I was full-time and not nursing. So now it's just, I'm doing it. I am trying to make myself take like one day off a week, which is really hard and has not happened, I will say. But I haven't set new goals either.
This is probably the hardest working woman in this industry. So I don't know that she needed to do more.
Yeah. I haven't set a schedule. I haven't tried doing more. I already had too much going on. So now I don't see the jacket. I have more time, but I haven't found like a rhythm. And as far as the goals, like, I have camp coming up. I am leaving for Myrtle Beach in Pennsylvania on Sunday. I actually have less time, because now I have time to run around and go do things.
He wants to officially put it on for us here.
Oh,
so
I'm
going to make him big.
He's going to don the jacket. No pun intended.
I only buy jackets I can wear. Every jacket I have, all 60 of them, I can fit, I can wear. They're my size. And this jacket I'm going to show you is a 1960s. It's a cafe racer. I've had it for 20 years myself. It was made in like 64, 65. This is the typical cafe racer that...
Okay, I'm making you big.
Hang on, let me zip it up so you can see how the zipper runs, because this is important and most people don't get that. Hang on. This is one I wear. You'll see me wearing this specific jacket in the winter, actually. So this is a cafe racer. The zipper is usually the deciding factor. This is an original one. I'll show you just two more real quick. Again, I wear all of these jackets. I think this is I love Brooks Brothers. So if you know what Brooks Brothers is, they've been around since the 1860s. I have buttons from Brooks Brothers, but this is one of my gray ones. This is like a 74. I research the ages, the years. I buy new ones too. I buy newer brands. I'll show you the brand, and I'm sure somebody might recognize it. But why? This one's like a display one. It's got some very nice bling on the back. So I do buy designer stuff as long as it fits me. Again, I love the striped one. So this is just a couple. I literally have 60 plus jackets that all fit. I can wear them all. I did a video a long time ago, and I think I might have taken it back down, but I had a video of just like 50 jackets that I have. But I love jackets. Concert shirts, same thing.
Now, if you snap your fingers in those, does the jukebox turn on?
No. You got to hit the jukebox, remember?
That's right.
You got to bang it. Ondine Irving sent a $9.99 super chat and said, "Thank you for educating all of us. I've learned bits and pieces from each of your channels." So Ondine, thank you very much. Here is your dog. Super chat. And I want to say real quick, that's why I do these panel shows. You're going to see a lot of questions. All four of us are going to answer completely differently. And you have to make your own business model. Take pieces from multiple people and make your own, because you're not me and you're not Don or Dom or George. And you aren't in the same situation we're in. So the best thing is to pull pieces from those that you like or that you feel you mesh with, and kind of make your own style. Because if you try and copy someone exactly, it's probably not going to work. Probably not going to work. Where did this go?
Great
Oh,
point.
I see Duncan coming in here hot in just a minute. Deborah wants to know, how often do you run sales on eBay? She tries to do 2 a week with 5% promoted listings.
Well, this is a perfect example. Don's gonna kill me when he hears this.
We're gonna have all different answers. I feel like.
I don't think Don knows this about me. Don, I have something I have to confess to you, Don.
You promote listings.
I come to you with a confession. Are you ready? Are you ready? Don, I have literally never run a sale on eBay. Look, it's gonna go. The reason for it is that, and I know, listen, I am way the outlier on that. I know the vast majority of people run sales, and it's perfect to what Kat says. I am by no means telling people not to run sales. It's a great sales generator for a lot of people. Don has a great model that he uses, where he uses the sales to get an opportunity to sell people offers, and it works out really well for him. It's just my own personal thing. I've always had a thing with sales where I feel like this happened a lot with JCPenney. If you remember, people would stop buying stuff from them because, and there's many reasons people stop buying stuff from them, but one of the reasons was everyone just waited until they put the stuff on the sale, so they wouldn't shop on the non-sale days. So the other thing is that I feel like I do so many things with the way I set up my listings that I feel like I'm already doing, in essence, what is like a sale. So when I send out offers, I feel like that's a sale. If I accept an offer, that's like a sale. If I'm doing anything with a promoted listing, I have to factor that in too. And then if I'm going to take more money off of that, you've got to weigh that. Now, Don, he'll speak for himself, but I know he's not doing promoted listings anymore. So that's not something he has to factor into it, whereas I do. So that's what we're talking about with different business models. But that's just, again, I know I'm the outlier with that.
Well, but with Dom talking about promoted listings, when I did clothing, you pretty much have to do promoted listings in clothing if you're selling the common everyday stuff, in my personal opinion. I also like the pay-per-clicks. I've done those on Amazon, because on Amazon, if you've got NOS and you've got, like, I'm buying bulk 1,500 units of something and I got replenishables of it, that's a static listing. So I want the traffic coming in there. So pay-per-clicks work. But unlike my eBay store, we haven't promoted listings in 2.5 years, maybe something like that. So again, like Dom does promote it, nothing wrong. If it works for you, it works for you. But for us, I don't promote anything. I've got a 3x price structure on most of the items I share. I run a sale every day of the week. A sale is running. I run them 3 specific days, and we've played with this for god awful long time. I've got several stores, so I can do it one way in one store and another way in another store. And we've got volume in the store, so I can judge. I have a baseline to judge on what works and what doesn't. So I run sales on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Fridays runs for 3 different days, so I cover the whole weekend and don't have to mess with sales. But with that, when I run a sale, I also do sell similar before I start the sale. So we're doing, on average, we're every other day, we're doing at least now like 4% of our store is ended, and then self-similar. And then as soon as all of our self-similars are done for the day, we start the sales back over immediately. I've timed it now where we've got an hour gap where there's nothing running, which gives us just enough time to run in the self-similar and the sales all at once. So that works. We're still running 4th quarter sales right now, which we usually do. I haven't had a dip yet since this started, even with all the stuff going on in the economy. Again, it comes down to what you sell, but I'll just keep that at that point I don't want to ramble on about some other topic.
Oh, that's interesting, though. My store's pretty limited as far as what I have listed in it currently. It's about to expand. I haven't really run sales in the past, and the only reason, I guess, is because typically if something sits long enough and I go to relist it, I either decide to, because I do a lot of real world selling, I decide to either take it out of the eBay inventory and replace it, or I mark it down. So that's the way I do my sales. I just actually list the thing at a lower price. But that may change. I kind of hear what Don's saying and why it makes a lot of sense if you're doing a lot of volume, or if you have a lot of similar types of merchandise, or that kind of thing, because there is that thing about be the cheapest one, the best one, or the only one. So if you're not the only one or the best one, you might have to be the cheapest one, and you might have to look at that. And, I'm sure I'll end up there. The other thing too is that honestly, I've got a storehouse. So for me, when things get stale, if they've been on the show circuit, if they've been listed online and they haven't sold, the death pile becomes a sale once or twice a year, and I just take the stuff there and sell it in the real world and get rid of it. So I'm either trying to maintain a market in something with my store, or I'm selling a particular thing that I don't really have a better venue for. So I just haven't gotten into the sale thing yet.
I just want to make one quick observation on that. Everybody on eBay used to run, when auctions were around, they'd run an auction for the week. They'd relist it once. This was everybody I knew, everybody who was old school eBay. And then after that, they take it down. We did that for years. We wouldn't let it run. But since the last 10, 15 years, we found out that if you're selling vintage or collectibles, you might have the only one out there of a specific version of it. And the only way it will sell is if the right person's on. Even if you've had it up for 4 years, that right person may walk up tomorrow. So every day of the week, I sell a mix of stuff that's been up for years, and new stuff and mid stuff. So we totally decided, and we've talked, I've watched our competitors. I watched the guy who wrote the book on some of the stuff we sell. I just leave it up now, because in all honesty, you've got other markets. We do sell some locally too. So I can't say I don't ever do that, but I've come to the conclusion that leaving it up is better for us anyway. It may not be better for everybody, but for us, it spreads out my footprint on eBay, having the quantity. And again, I sell stuff I put up 10 years ago, probably still on a daily basis almost. So.
And that is true. I mean, you're not wrong at all. Definitely leaving it up is a good answer for a lot of people, especially if that's your main selling venue, because you're right. It could be that something that people ask what's a normal turnover. And I mean, it can be 3 to 6 months to 3 to 6 years in the antique business, depending on what the item is, before that person who really gets it and is willing to pay your price comes along. But in that case, I'm probably not discounting it either, because I know it's not about the price. It's about waiting for that one person who understands it enough to pay the price.
Yeah, and I leave everything up as well. I don't pull stuff. I keep mine up. But I am not the opposite, but mine's completely different from everybody else. I promote everything, even my one-offs, just because that's my model. I promoted it trending. Plus, I run a constant sale. My sale runs from Sunday to Friday and Friday to Monday. It is off maybe 5 hours at a time. But I price up in order to put my sale on. So really, I come in at like 3 to 5% under the market. So I will try and go. Now, if somebody's ridiculously low, I'm going to let theirs sell and let mine sit there. I'm not going to try and beat like the outlier. But I run a constant sale and I promote everything. So that's, again, where now you just saw 4 completely different answers. You got to figure out what works for you. I also buy very, very cheap. My profit is 10 times on almost everything I buy except my really high dollar items. So I'm okay paying an extra 3, 5, or 7% for promotions because I only paid 10% of my selling costs. So I have a bigger gap there to be able to do that. And then I move more as far as quantity. Like my sell-through rate is low. It's low, but I'm happy with where my dollar amount is because I have the space. I know I do a lot of one-offs and I'm okay with them just sitting there. I'm fine. I could buy it. We have another shed coming, but it's for Brad. George sent me a funny message. He said, don't pretend that that's not going to become your annex. Brad is putting it on the other side of the property. George said he's a smart man. It is going to be nowhere near my 2 eBay sheds, but I have 11 acres. So if I needed, I could buy myself, I could get another shed. So I have plenty of space. That is not my goal, nor is it in my plans, but I could do it if I needed to do it. Miss Christie, do you have any particular items that you search for when you're sourcing because you know it sells well?
Well, I'm obviously always on the lookout for comic books, but don't come across them too much at estate sales. I love things from the 80s and earlier. So 80s toys, 80s action figures, love old books. I'm always going through old magazines. I'm always looking for ephemera. I'm always looking inside of books for things. I found lots of cool hidden treasures inside of your books, as many of you know from watching my channel over the years. And I just love digging to the bottom of boxes because that's usually where the best goodies hide, because either someone hid it down there or because just through the accumulation of time, things just kept piling on top of it. So that's a non-specific answer, but just kind of something I look to do whenever I go out to estate sales. But like Kat said, and I think like Don and George, I mean, we have specific things that we like, but we're also, I think, generalists, and that we really do seem to pride ourselves in being able to find the value. And if we see something and we know enough about it that we should be able to figure out if it's valuable and take another look at it and go after it. So, there's every sale that I go to, in other words, there's something I'm looking at that's new, that's different, that I've never really looked at before.
For me, I don't go to garage sales, I go to flea markets occasionally, but I don't go to garage sales or thrift stores or any of the routine stuff. We target everything. So if I'm sourcing something, I'm tracking down where to find it myself, or it's coming straight from one of our pickers. I only pick certain items from places like that. Everything else, I found a niche, and let's say I figured out these type of items are worth something. I'm going to figure out where I can get those, and that's what I go after. So toys, I love vintage toys from my childhood. Micronauts are one of my favorites. Anything Takara, any of the die-cast vintage, any of the monsters, stuff like that. Vintage Japanese toys are some of my favorites. But again, I try to only... If I'm going out sourcing, I'm targeting one specific place. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm getting already. So I don't randomly drive around anymore at all. I go somewhere and I come back. My sourcing is very boring compared to what most people do. I got people that contact me these days, and that's where the majority of it comes. And if I'm not interested in it, I just tell them, no, thank you. Or I give them somebody else's number that, I don't know, that's kind of, I guess, long about the way, but that's my sourcing.
Yes, and Kat, just note you have another super chat. The sourcing that I do, I agree with Don, because a lot of it, when you've been in the business a while and people know you, it just starts to come to you faster than you could go out looking for it. And so you don't always, at that point, necessarily even choose yourself. It just happens. But when I am looking, sourcing for the real world stuff is one thing, and sourcing for eBay. Now, I know Kat will send a piece of furniture in the mail, and she's very good at shipping. I'm more likely to hold that out for real world. If I'm sourcing for eBay, I'm looking for something the size of my fist or less. One thing you might consider, if you're really... There's two ways of looking at it. On the one hand is buy what everybody is buying. So in vintage, the most collected thing forever and ever has been coins. So if you go to an estate sale or a house sale and you see a bag of coins, you might pick them up even if you don't know the subject, because you might find something. On the other hand, the other theory, I remember I ran an antique mall, and someone said, well, I'm trying to figure out... a new dealer said, I'm trying to figure out what to sell. And they walked around the mall, and they came back the next week with a bunch of glossy hull pottery. It was back when the soft matte glaze hull pottery sold really well, and nobody wanted the glossy. And they were really upset that it didn't sell. because, well, I saw there was others in the mall, and what I said was, well, honestly, what you want to find is what isn't there. Look for the thing that isn't what everybody else has, whatever that is. If you're in some place and you see something you've never seen before, that's a great thing to start with. You know, take your phone, do a little research, see what you're looking at, because those unusual things are where you really get your pops on eBay. I mean, the other stuff is just commodity, and they can get it from anywhere, any day.
That's a great point. And I've said that similar thing to that. I said one of my favorite shows is American Pickers. And I love when Mike, they ask him that question and he says, you know, what am I looking for? Something cool that I've never seen before. And I said it's because I always pick up, you know, some weird, bizarre, unusual item. I love looking for that kind of stuff. And the weird and unusual, the strange and bizarre, boy, oh boy, that stuff is just perfect for eBay.
Yeah, that's what sells for me. I do a lot of what Dawn does, and if I find something that sells for good, I'm gonna go hunt it. Like my kachinas, when they run low, I'll go find more kachinas. I promise you, I will go find more when my display shelf runs low. So that's how you see. I go through waves. Like I did the jewelry, I did scarves. If I'm making good money on something, I'll go buy a ton of it. And then when it gets low, I might cycle back to that when my inventory gets low. I am not a go out and source a lot kind of person either. I do 90% of my sourcing from online auctions. I like to sit at home. I look for them. Most of them I do go pick up. I just bought $2,200 worth of vintage Harley stuff, like from the 50s till now, that is being shipped to me. Because I was looking for something else. But guess what? If I'm paying for shipping, I'm going to see what else they have. And the whole auction was full of 50s and 60s and 70s Harley stuff. So that one I got. For me, thrifting and in-person estate sales is for fun. That is not where the majority of my inventory comes from, because the quantity I move, I need to be able to buy more. So when I buy from these online estate auctions, I'm spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 and getting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 worth of inventory in one carload. You know, yeah, I'm driving 3 hours each way, but I just got, you know, $10,000, $15,000 worth of inventory. So when I'm out looking lately, it's like the vintage linens. Easy for my listers to list. I just sold some $30 napkins. I paid $1 for it in a estate sale. So I'm looking at the linens. George's pens have made me several $100s. George ran an estate sale and I got Nexium pens from him. I've sold over $100 worth of Nexium pens that were 50 cents a piece. I saw they sold, but nobody had the heavier duty, fancier one. And people collect that. I have some Viagra ones up too. Like people, and everybody on Instagram keeps asking me why. I don't care why. All I care is that they're buying them. I don't care why they want them.
All those drug advertisements sell. We sell the plushes too, like the drug plushes, like the livers, the hearts, and all that stuff sells.
Yeah.
They like the Viagra pens because they don't fall down.
All right, I see another super chat just came in too.
I'm glad you did instead.
OG and Z, Mark and Richard are my two main moderators here that help me in the chat. So thank you to both of them. And Mark, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Mark, George has met Mark. Mark went to Renninger's with me. Actually, I think we went in November and in February. So yeah. All right, guys, here is your dolphin, Mark. I don't know if Zoen is watching, but thank you so much.
Super chat.
Oh, and I see Pat Dees is here too.
He's trying to make me lose my wording. Don, and George. I'm not saying it fast. I'm already having to like really think before I say names. I'm getting brain work tonight. I don't have any shark foot. Everybody keeps asking. I'm going to have to make some other super chats besides my dolphins of other sea creatures. And we have our SeaWorld pass, so I can go get dolphins and beluga whales and all kinds of things. But Pat, thank you so much. Here's your dolphin. I don't have a shark, but here's your dolphin.
Super chat.
All right, Duncan, I'm only an hour late if I can get back to you. So normally, guys, Julian clicks on the super chats. He has the administrative capabilities. So I'm having to scroll old school, like back in the day. I got spoiled with having Julian watch the bottom of the chat and I watched the top. Duncan, so we are an hour behind on questions, which has been the norm lately, guys. So if you have questions, try and get them in early. We have over 600 people in the chat, and I appreciate all of you being here, but I can't get to all the questions anymore. I will get to as many as I possibly can. Here is Duncan's first one. The cost of everything is going up. Postage, food, and fuel. Do sellers raise prices, source better products, or sell more items to keep up with the cost of living?
And the answer is all of the above. Really, it is.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to do. I mean, it's just simple math. You just got to run the math. You got to see how much, you got to run your numbers. I talked about this in a recent video. You have to see how much the cost of increases in the cost of living and inflation are affecting your bottom line, and then you've got to adjust accordingly. You've either got to adjust your prices, you got to either source it for lower, you got to find a way to sell more, you got to explore the niche that you're in. Maybe the niche that you're in doesn't work well in today's economy, and you need to expand either more into an existing niche that you're in or start expanding into other ones that you're not currently in. So it's really that simple.
Well, I'm a numbers guy, so I watch every dime through the business. Like when the 30-cent fee is, I've got a 30-cent handling fee. I've got fees for overseas when they go on. We do calculated shipping, so I never have to worry about when postage goes up. That all just stays there. We keep the discount when we do the shipping. So I get the discount. I keep it, and it covers some of the costs for my shipping supplies. So I don't pass it on to my customers. They're paying the same rate that they would pay at the post office. So if they go and check, they're going to say, hey, it's the same price. So that doesn't have any issues. With most of my items, I mean, we're 9% up as of right now from last year at the very same time. So my sales are still coming in fine. We're increasing as time goes by, not necessarily raising every single price, but I might increase something 50 cents one month to get some more action and lower it 50 cents the next month. But I don't honestly go out and constantly check my prices on stuff unless I get an offer in. I'm not prone to do that. It's a big time when I got like 79,000 listings up if you count all of our listings. I don't have time to check them. I'm not going to pay somebody to do it. I go, like Kat said earlier, I go by the amount of revenue coming in on a given day. If it's said figure, or if I'm doing 4 digits a day, I'm fine. I don't care. Everything else is going fine. We list stuff constantly. There's somebody listing right this very, maybe even 2 people right now. So as long as you got new stuff going up, you're still fine. Again, it increases my numbers no matter what. I'm going up. As long as my projections by as I do them every day, as long as they're going up, I'm not really concerned about going back in and pounding everything. It's just a waste of time to some extent when you have volume, I guess.
And I heard Viagra pens are going up in value. So.
Just couldn't resist, could you? No, as far as inflation goes, I mean, I just remember the old dealers when I first got in the antique and vintage business talking about how. But I remember the old dealers talking about, the 70s when the market really exploded and a bunch of the mainstream took up collecting. A lot of it had to do with the fact that there was inflation and they could buy antique and vintage stuff at first for less than they could buy the same thing new. And it got new people excited. And right up until inflation really went to practically zero, the antique and vintage business was going up. And then things really went flat for a long time. And now I'm seeing prices and interest increasing again. So inflation is not necessarily bad, depending what part of the market you're in. And the other thing is, even on regular goods and NOS and even pallet stuff, if a buck doesn't go as far, people are going to start looking for used and new old stock instead of new. And that's not going to hurt the resale market either.
Yeah, so I discussed this. It might have been last show, but you can't raise your prices if the market doesn't dictate they pay for that. So just because your cost of living is going up, that doesn't mean somebody's going to pay more for your item. If yours is more than everybody else's, yours is going to sit there. So I don't think, like, you can't look at that. You need to look at the comps and what it's selling for. You might be able to get away with that with one-off items, you know, that you have the only one. So yeah, let me put it for a little more. And as far as sourcing better products, I think we should all be trying to do that all the time anyways, whether inflation is here or not, and sell more, depending on your model. Some people just want a little bit of extra income, and that's fine. But if you're using it as a main income, you should be trying to increase your income all the time. And for me, one of my big things is, guess what? When somebody buys a $2,100 Yadro, I bet they're not worried about the price of gas that much. It might be affecting them, but they're not overly concerned about that. So that's where the one-off and collectibles and higher dollar, you're reaching a different customer base that is in a whole different income level than somebody that's buying lower dollar items. So I think that's why I like having a mix, because it might take a long time for that $2,100 buyer to come along. When they do, like yesterday is a beautiful $2,700 sales day, and it's a nice day. But when they don't, all of these smaller $10, $20, $30, $50 sales add up. So that's why I like doing the mix. But I think we should be trying to do all of that regardless of the, like, I'm always trying to buy lower and better and sell higher dollar. But everybody knows I love lots, so I will buy $105 things if I get them for 50 cents, because I can't pass it up.
Can I add one?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a difference, and for us, we sell leisure and collectibles mostly. We're not selling essentials. If you're selling like essentials, home goods and stuff, there could be a time when those won't sell as much and they're flooded categories. So the people that buy stuff from me, nothing I sell in the store I share with people anybody needs. Nobody at all needs any of the stuff that I'm selling. So for anybody to buy it in the first place, they have to have extra money. They have to have expendable income. So we pretty much try to stick to items that are for expendable income, because these are mostly people that may be retired and they don't care what happens with the economy at all. They've got enough money in the bank. If they're spending $4,000 on a record, it doesn't matter to them. No one in the right mind has 4,000 extra bucks to spend on a little tiny record or a button or a ring or whatever the case may be if they don't have extra money to begin with. So sticking to the categories that are leisure stuff, we do far better than the items that are necessities. It's always been that way for us. A shirt is a necessity if it's a $20 shirt. A $200 button is not a necessity. They're going to buy it whether it's bad, wars going on, anything. They're still going to buy it, is what I've come to the conclusion.
Yeah. I'm assuming this is for Dawn. I don't know that anybody else, or maybe George knows too. Dom, maybe you. I don't know the answer to this question. What is the best way to research stamps?
Don probably is the best one to answer, because I don't know. George, maybe. I do a lot of stamps, George?
Yeah, but let Don answer, because
Okay.
I know he knows this category too.
Okay.
Yeah, I was collecting. My father gave me his stamp collection when I was 7. I earned the Boy Scout stamp collecting merit badge. I actually handled the Scout merit badge because I was the only one who knew it. I've been into stamps forever. I sell them on Dell Camps. I sell them on HIP, and I sell them on eBay. Some I've put on Amazon in the past, actually, too. It depends on what kind of stamps you're looking to sell, I guess. You have to have some basic knowledge because of varieties. Most 3-cent or 1920s and newer stamps aren't going to be worth much unless it's like a high dollar or $5 stamp, a commemorative, a misprint, or something. Now, if you go back like the original commemoratives, the Columbian Exposition or something, high dollar stamps, like you probably know a $5 Columbian's worth some pretty good money, used or not. So again, it depends on what you have. A typical 1-cent stamp, a 2-cent stamp, a 3-cent stamp, they probably made millions of them to ship postcards. I get asked on postcards all the time, well, is the stamps worth anything on postcards? 999,999 of them are going to be worth nothing. I've looked through millions of postcards. I don't think I've ever had a stamp other than maybe an error once in my life. It was a 5 cent printed on a 2 cent plate. They had something mixed up. You might know what I'm talking about. The color mat. Anyway, it's something that most people wouldn't have a clue on. I found better stuff on postcards, the cancellations. I've sold cancellations far more than I ever have for a stamp. So it depends on what you're trying to look up. Del Camps is good. I own, and I would recommend, if you're into stamps, to have a hardbound book set, Scott's or Harris's or Stanley Gibbons or something, if you're doing mostly like European, if you're like Duncan does Queen Vicks and stuff, which I love myself. I've got a massive collection myself. We've got a bank vault box just for stamps. That's how heavy we are into them. I mean, it's not like you're going to find an inverted Jenny or something in your lot. You know what I mean? Maybe the new re-releases, but again, it depends on what you got and what your expertise level is in there. Because if you don't know anything about stamps, you're talking years long. I've tried to explain it in my Patreon group, and man, I lose people real quickly. And again, if you're not into it, you don't get it, or it's not your thing. To me, a stamp is a work of art. I love the earlier ones. I love the BOBs back of the books. I love early. I have number US1, US2, Franklin and Washington. I kept them. I didn't bother selling them. I could have made a lot of money. They were nice copies, full borders. They're centered well. I mean, I love stamps. So for me, if you don't know enough, you're going to get lost. And you can get taken real easy.
Boy, yes, everything he said. And I started collecting when I was 9, and it's something I've always really enjoyed. But one thing to know about stamps is 999 out of 1,000 are worth practically nothing. And it was starting in the 30s, FDR was the stamp collector, and he really loved them, and people really loved FDR. And it was cheap because you could just get them off of envelopes, and people didn't have a lot of money. So everybody and their brother started collecting stamps. And that's why anything made after about 1930 or 35 is likely to be worth practically nothing. And so you've got to get back. And that was also about the time they started doing first day covers, where it's the first day that the stamp came out, and they send a bunch of envelopes to the place that, say it was a stamp for the Gettysburg Address. They'd send a bunch of envelopes from Gettysburg to people who subscribed, and it would have the stamp with a special cancellation that said first day of issue. Those, with very few exceptions from the very earliest years, are worth practically nothing. There's just so many of them because everybody subscribed to those things. So if you're not knowledgeable about stamps, the first thing to know is, unless it was like a $5 stamp or more, the likelihood of anything after about the 1930s being worth your time to even sort through is really low. So that can save you a lot of time. And then what he said about the Scott guides or the Harris guides, if you really are into it and you want to know, they'll tell you all about the variations, and you can start getting little chemical kits so that you can test for watermarks, so that you know which of the Julian varieties.
Hydrotetrachloride.
Yeah, every time they change technology, then there'd be like a different variation of a stamp, and they change technologies in the teens and 20s probably like 6 times. So there's all these variations of these otherwise really common stamps, and a few of them are worth something. It gets really arcane, and that's why, like he
rotary
said,
and all that
we
stuff.
lose people, and we're probably losing them right now with these long answers. But anyway, the point is you can do it. I would say that if you're not really sure and you just happen to buy a big lot, take really good pictures and make it really easy for the people who might be buying them to see what they're getting, and they'll pick out the rarities for you and push the price, usually.
I could add something to this. My knowledge of stamps is a scintilla of what George and Don's knowledge of this topic area is, but I always say that there's creative ways sometimes to make money out of things that are otherwise worthless. And there's 2 ways I've been doing this with stamps. I did a video a while ago where I purchased a massive lot of stamps. And actually, I was surprised how much attention that video got. A lot of stamp collectors came into the video and were watching it. And I was clearly explaining in the video, this is a new area I'm expanding into, and here's some of the stuff I found, whatever. So like Don and George said, most of the stamps after 1930s or whatever are worthless. So okay, well, what do I do? Well, one of the things that I found is I had a lot of stamps that were organized by nationality. So what I did is I just started selling them in little packets based on nationality. So I have people, for example, from Poland who come in, they'll buy a couple of envelopes of these stamps and they'll give $50 for a couple of envelopes of stamps from a certain country. Another thing, and otherwise they would be worthless if I tried to sell them individually. The other thing that I've done is sell them to crafters. They're crafters who will take the stamps, and like Don said, they view them as works of art, and they use them on Etsy to make things like bookmarks and other types of products. And so like just the other day, I sold a small little box of stamps, probably had a few hundred stamps in there, but they had different landscapes and pictures on them. Some of them had cancel marks on them and stuff. And that little box sold for $30. So, you know, there's ways that you can do it, even if you're not an expert. You just have to think creatively.
Look up collage and stamps, and
Yeah.
people will actually make portraits out of the colors. And I sell them like all greens to somebody, and I'll sell palettes. And on Etsy, you'll find people that just do artwork with them. There's a museum, if I'm not mistaken, I think it might still be in Florida, that had just works of art, and it looked like actual paintings, but when you got up close, it was little tiny pieces that someone cut out of stamps. Every one of them. It was just
like almost like a mosaic.
Yeah, it more, I would call it a collage only because it was a mixed media, but yeah, it's basically a mosaic of stamps. Maybe the background is usually painted, but the figures that I see are usually the stamp parts. In fact, there's ACEO cards that people do that too on eBay constantly, and some of them can sell for hundreds of dollars because of who did them, even who cut them out and put them together.
Interesting. I bought a stamp. I need to find them. They went into the death pile because I am not that interested in stamps. But they had separated them by country, like Dom is saying, and I need to put those up.
China, you should be looking at. Look at the China ones first.
Yeah, I do very, very well with Asian stuff overall. I do very, very well. Pame wants to know, I think the better way to answer this is, do we think that eBay frowns upon deleted listings? So like if you sell it on Poshmark or Facebook and you delete it on eBay, do you think eBay, like that affects your algorithm negatively?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't do that, so I can't really, I'm not the best person to answer that. If other people here cross list, I mean, you answer it better, but I don't think so.
I would, like last year, eBay still had on the user agreement buried on a line that said you weren't allowed to list the items that were up on eBay. This is still, I even got a screenshot of it, that you couldn't put them somewhere else. Now, obviously, even when I saw that, it was already void and null because they allow us. I've been selling on sites linked up like HIP. You can link straight up to eBay.
Yeah.
I've been selling on forever. HIP changes my inventory for they're still having some issues, but for the most part, the inventory changes. I change stuff to zero quantity in my store all the time. I usually don't delete anything anymore. We have the zero quantity option set up in our store, so all of our items go to zero, none of them end, and then we do end up deleting them when we do sell similar, because that's when our time is to assess, do we keep them running, do we add a quantity, and go from there. So that's part of my process, but I would never worry about that. If you're worrying about it, eBay is offering you to do it. They're hooked up with all these places. Yeah. It's all third-party, linkage. So, with the API, they wouldn't give you the API if they're going to tell you can't end a listing. It would make no sense whatsoever.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it does. And I sell stuff on multiple platforms all the time. All right, Duncan's question number 2. I still see sellers complaining about slow sales on eBay and having lots of stuff listed. What should they be doing to fix their sales, assuming they're already using Promoted, etc.?
I mean, there's some common things that we all talk about, making sure you're checking your keywords, making sure there's no misspellings, making sure you put all your keywords in there and use the proper keywords. There's lots of times when I look at competition and I'm aghast to see that they've pretty much only used like a third of their title line, and they left out all sorts of stuff that I'm going to pack in there that's going to get people to view my item instead of theirs. So that's one thing. The other thing is making sure you're taking good pictures. Still I see all the time just absolutely horrible photos out there. Sometimes you can't even see what the item is that someone's trying to sell, or they didn't put up enough photos. That does not mean you need to put up 12 photos if you're listing a postcard, but just make sure that you're taking the proper amount of photos for whatever type of item it is that you have. What's standard for, you know, that particular type of item. Make sure you get all the angles. Remember that your buyers aren't there to physically see the item, so you want to make it as if they can. So that's important. And the other thing I would say is the pricing, because Don and I know, and I think Kat does, and I don't know, George, if you do it as well, but store reviews for other people who are struggling with these slow sales. And what I see time and time again happen is that people are not doing proper comp checks. And so they're just taking their item and they're saying, okay, I have this Batman mug. You know what? This looks like a $40 mug. And they just list it for 40 bucks. And they haven't bothered to check that there's 10 other people that have it listed for, you know, $24.99. It's in the exact same condition. And they have very similar feedback reputations. So you have to make sure you're doing your research in terms of pricing as well. And that you know that you have your handle and your pulse on the market. So those would be the main things I would say.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Dom just said too. With I see even other YouTube channels just telling people just look up the sold prices. That's a very bad mistake, is if you're not looking up how many are active, there may be 20 that sold for real good money, but there may be 10,000 of them on eBay right now that didn't sell. Like with sell-through rates, I don't care what the sell-through rate is of the individual items at all. There's no way to check 95% of what I sell to come up with any sell-through rate. So I only judge sell-through rate when I'm deciding on a category. If the category has over set amounts of a sell-through rate on average across the board, I usually mess with it. It depends on the category as well too. But with like trying to get sales in, I don't do promoted listings. Again, I haven't done them for years now, ever since the fiasco with, and ad blocker still blocks it. So I don't mess with it. I'm done. eBay is lost. I don't even know what they're doing with that. I know because I talked to the people who created the promoted listings personally. Again, I don't look at the promoted listings. I don't look at the watcher unless I can send out an offer to a watcher. The best thing that I do is go for perceived value on everything I sell. So I run a 3X on my pricing. I do the sales. And then I send out offers to watchers. A large chunk, and I mean the vast majority of what I sell is sold from offers to watchers or somebody sending me an offer in. And Dom commented on something else too, which is huge these days. And I know people say, no, but your feedback. If you've got bad feedback and you're wondering why you're not selling things, everybody's been taken at least once these days. Everybody who's just jumped on to reselling. My mom bought stuff and she got screwed over from some stuff she bought from somebody after I looked and it said that they were pretty good. So nobody is trustworthy. Or most people are worried about being screwed over, I guess is the point here. So the better the feedback, the better you take care of your customers, the better off you will be and the more items you will sell. That's my honest opinion. Your feedback is the only way someone can tell if you're a good guy or a bad guy online these days.
Right. And to piggyback on Don's piggyback, I would also say your response to feedback, if you got a bad feedback and you respond to it by saying, this buyer is a scammer idiot, block this buyer. I see this all the time. And I'm like, what are you doing? If I'm a buyer, I don't want to buy from you now. Don't do that. Even if the buyer is wrong, just keep it to the facts of what happened. And that's it. Don't personalize it like that. You're killing yourself if you're doing that, even though it might feel good in that moment. Now that's up for a year.
Well, I would say one quick piggyback is if somebody's a scammer and I have to report them, I will say that in the feedback. Reported to eBay, got my money back, or whatever the deal is. I always state that I reported them to eBay if I did. And that's the end of the story. Move on, and I'm done with it. I block them, and I never have to deal with them again.
Well, and that's a fact. So that's a reasonable thing to do. I would add a couple of things because everything you guys are saying is great and covered so much of it. One thing I see people fall into the trap of, and I've seen it in real world and I've seen it on eBay, is I'm not listing anymore. I'm not adding any more to this store until this stuff sells because I have enough stuff up there and people need to understand how great my stuff is. Well, that is a really good way, especially if you're someone who has a lot of stuff and you have a lot in the same category and you have repeat people coming and they don't see anything new, they're going to stop coming. And if you do have a niche that's sold well for you, review your own sales. I mean, a lot of people, it's like, well, I sold half my stuff and then the other half is just sitting there. Well, what are you buying? Are you buying more of the stuff that's just sitting there? Or are you buying more of the stuff like Kat said? I did well with scarves, so I went and bought more scarves. And then more people came to me to buy scarves. You've got to look at what's actually happening. And tailor your market to what is actually working. And also, yes, the idea of, well, I saw somebody asking blah, blah, blah. I cannot believe there are still people who are looking only at asking prices and setting their prices based on that and not looking at what the actual sold prices are.
Yeah. And I would say, and I always say this, if your sales are down, list more. But Dom had a great point. You need to make sure the basics are there, which is your title, your keywords, use all 80 characters, take professional photos. If they can't see your item clearly, why would they buy it? So make sure the basics are there. And if they are, like George said, if stuff isn't selling, look at what is and get more of that. You might need to change what you're putting up. I have tons to choose from as far as like what I am listing, but I list more when my sales are down. I don't like get all upset. I don't get mad. I don't get in my head, because they will come back up. It is a roller coaster. They will come back up. Like, it was funny, and I left my thumbnail for yesterday that eBay sales sucked, because they did on the weekend. I did $400, which I normally do over that in a day. And then I had a $2,700 day yesterday, you know? So that's just the nature of the beast. But also, and I said this as well, don't compare yourself to us. We have thousands of listings and you might have 200. Well, guess what? I didn't see regular sales until I had over 500. And depending on what you're selling, you might need more or less. I know there are several that are on YouTube that carry 200 in their store and make more money than I do, because they source very, very popular, high turnover items. So you got to look at your own business model and just keep pushing is all I can say. Just keep pushing.
Can I just say?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want George to feel left out with the piggybacking. So I just related really well to what he said about keeping like a fresh look in your store where you're selling your merchandise. Think of it like a physical store. Like when you go into a physical store, and if you go in and you just see the same old stuff in that store all the time, eventually you're going to get bored and you're going to stop going in. Like when I go to the grocery store and I'm in the cereal aisle and I see that, you know, they just added marshmallows to Frosted Flakes like it's a new cereal. I'm doing the happy dance. I'm excited. I'm taking a selfie with it. I'm like, I'm picking that up. You know, I'm pumped up and I'm looking forward to what they're going to have the next week. So, you know, you got to think of that for your store. Make sure you're adding new stuff in there, because I've had the experience of going through people's eBay store, you know, every couple of weeks or so. When I see the same merchandise, it's like, you know, I'm not going to come back as often. I'm more likely to come back if I'm seeing cool, new, fresh stuff each time.
Yeah, I just did a video on Patreon about that exact same thing, that you got to check your store. They changed settings. You can now put banners on your store. So if you're not looking at your store religiously all the time, you're missing out, because you can add the discount on your store now. So if you're doing a 30% off, you can change the banner to be discount. So everybody's going to go to the items you're trying to mark down, or whatever the case may be. Let me throw in one more thing. If you're not offering returns of some type, chances are someone's buying the same item you're selling from someone else. The return thing is huge. I will tell you for sure. Those who don't do returns are getting hurt for sure. You're losing sales.
Yeah, I agree with that. We do free 30-day.
Same here.
And you get a discount. You get a discount on your fees, and it really offsets it and comes out further ahead. MP wants to know, how many items or daily dollars were you listing before you were earning a living income? I'm assuming they mean from reselling.
Well, I have a full-time job in addition to my reselling, so I can't really answer that question, because I don't earn a living doing reselling. It's basically going to help me pay for my kids' colleges. That's what I'm, you know, using it for, or plan to use it for. So,
well, if you're talking about quantity, when we hit like 10,000 listings, we were pretty much, you know, it was a full-time income at that point. Nowadays it's way over that. But if you're talking about dollar amount, whether you're talking about like back in the day when we were doing $700 a day was our average, every day of the week, $700 a day on eBay. That's when I felt like things were going in the right direction. It's obviously much higher now, but that's when it hit. But at that point we had like 20,000 listings when we hit that number. again, it was not always 700. Sometimes it was over, sometimes it was under, but that was the average. When we opened up a second store and moved a bunch of items and did stuff, that number doubled. So again, it depends on quantity. It depends on what you're selling. There is no right or wrong answer for anybody, really. It comes down to specific items you're selling, your locale, your experience on your pricing abilities, your experience on identifying them, knowing which keyword to put all the way to the left, or whatever the case may be. I guess that's too much of an open-end question that there's no one set answer. Everybody here will tell you something different, I would say.
Yeah, that is true because it's all relative to what you're doing. I mean, my average ticket per sale is probably $30 on average. So if you're selling items that are more expensive, you don't have to sell as many. If you're selling cheaper items, you have to sell a lot more, depending on what you pay for it. I mean, there's so many factors, but I would say consistently over time, if I'm selling in all of my different real world, online, eBay, everything, if I'm selling 300 to 500 items per month, I'd say, and I do this for a living, but I do other things like appraisal work and YouTube and estate sales and things like that I get money for too. But if I was just selling, I would say I'd probably have to sell 300 to 500 items a month would be a living wage by the time you pay your expenses and everything, and a decent living wage.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it really, like everybody else said, there are so many factors, but I would say number one is, what's a living income to you? I was used to almost a six-figure income as a nurse. So guess what? I want a six-figure income as a reseller because I don't want to downsize and lessen what I'm doing to do what I love doing. So I want six figures out of reselling. And I also, though, have multiple streams of revenue. I have YouTube, I have affiliates, I sell on my big cartel store, I do live sales. I have a ton of different streams. As far as me for eBay, I used to try and do 20 to 30 items a day. I switched that to a dollar amount, and I think you should list the amount you want to sell. So figure out what your living income is to you and list that much a day. Like I would like to be at $500 in sales average a day by the end of the year, and that will continue to grow. So right now I try and list $500 in items a day, because if you're wanting that much in sales, but you're not listing that much every day, it's not going to happen. So, but like a six-figure income for me in rural North Florida is living pretty decent. But if you're in California, you might be in a shack. So I think you got to really look at, like, living expenses are probably quadruple. So I would need like 400,000 to live how I'm living in California. So I think you really need to look at your location, and some people would do very well off of 30 to 40,000, depending on what their living expenses are. So I think you got to look at all those variables and figure out for you what works. Richard got impatient waiting for me to get to his question and sent a $10 super chat. My other main moderator here, and Richard will be speaking at the camp along with George next month in April. So both of them will be at my camp in Orlando. Richard says, for everyone on the panel, vintage resellers, what advice would you give new resellers he stole Duncan's question, just getting started, sourcing and listing, and don't sell what's in your house.
Okay, fine. Sell what you know, sell what you love, and sell something related to what you're skilled at, something that you have a passion in. You might not have those things in your house, but you might know where to go get those things and figure out how to make deals and figure out how to access it. And that's the stuff that I would focus on, and then start expanding in niches from there. The other thing I can't emphasize enough, and this is why I love Don's channel, and not brown nosing, but why I love Don's channel, George's, and Kat's, is because they're educational channels. So the emphasis on education and loving to learn, I think, is something that gives a reseller who likes that stuff, that gives you an advantage, because you have the passion of learning, and you're going to start picking up just all sorts of things if you want to do that. So I would encourage every new reseller to start diving into some of these channels, these educational channels, even stuff that's not on a reselling channel. Could be just something on television that's something historical where you could learn something. Watch Antiques Roadshow, whatever. Just start learning about just new areas, and then you're going to start coming across these things when you go out to sales. You'll recognize them easier, and you'll be able to pick them up and start flipping them.
Yeah, I know without saying don't sell what you have around the house. I always recommend, if you're starting off, to start off with some cheap, easy to list items first, no matter what, because you've got to understand how the site works before you start selling the valuable stuff, because you can get screwed up really quick if you're just starting off. If you mess up the account, you misidentify something and you get dinged right away, eBay's going to probably slap you on the wrist. They may bury your items. They may even boot you if you mess up bad. So I would always recommend starting off small until you understand shipping, you understand how the site lists stuff, the fees, and the whole works. I get sticker shock from people. Wow, I didn't know it was going to cost that much, or the fees and all that. I would first, before you ever list anything, read over the user agreement. Know the fees ahead of time. Know everything about what site you're on. There's people who jump on Amazon thinking Amazon's going to be easy because they see the video and this and that. Man, if you don't know Amazon, you can get shut down very, very quickly. So I would start small, and then once you got the basics, then worry about what you're going to sell specifically. Like Dom said too, I started off with 1 or 2 niches. We probably sell 100 different niches or more right now. Just keep adding on. The amount of time you put in the beginning is going to be horrendous. I spent far more time in the beginning trying to figure this out, figure that out. What should I sell price wise? End of the day, I would recommend doing a pros and cons for all that. Figure out what's the pros for doing this, what's the cons for selling this, and go from there. You're worrying about your ROI, your return on your investment. It should be all that matters once you figure everything out, how the site works, and then go from there. I wouldn't sell anything if I'm not going to make money. I wouldn't sell anything that I don't know about, because I wouldn't want to mess up and get bad reputation. So don't just sell everything. Again, even if it's around your house, like Dom said, it doesn't mean it's good to sell or it's going to give you a good return. There's a lot of reasons why you should pick specific items, I guess, and start off slow, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Go with what you know, because you're going to add knowledge fastest to that and be able to speak more authoritatively, know your pricing better. People ask me how I got started, and well, I got started by learning a little bit about a whole lot of different things, and that was great for me. And they say, oh, so that's what I should do. And I say, no, in this day and age, that's absolutely not what you should probably do. You should probably focus on a few things that you already know you like, that you already enjoy, that you have some idea where you might find, and then branch out from there. I also do agree education is everything. That's what my channel's about. That's what these guys' channels are about. And Kat will tell you everything there is about the eBay aspect of it. And, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's fine. We're giving you this information for free so that you can go and use it. So take advantage of it. But the other thing I would say is, again, about sticking to a few things. You might also stick to 1 or 2 platforms initially. If you like writing stories and you're good at that, and you like casting an item in a certain light, kind of like the old J. Peterman catalog used to, then Etsy might be the place you should be selling.
Yes.
And you might get more money by doing that for something that wouldn't go for as much on another thing. If, on the other hand, you want to just do a lot of volume, you want it to be efficient and easy, well, eBay is still probably the best of the sites as far as those things go. I haven't used Mercari or Poshmark because I don't sell the kind of things that sell on there. But, there's lots of different online platforms, and there's also real world stuff. So there's a whole lot of ways you can sell. Probably pick 1 or 2 to start with, and don't try to do everything so you don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I would say just look really close at what you're paying. And this goes where Dawn is saying know the fees. A lot of people see something for $5 and it sells for $10. Oh, I'm going to make $5. No, you're not. I don't typically buy higher than 10 to 20%. On my high dollar stuff, I will go up. I will go up 30, 40, sometimes 50% if it means a $300 or $400 profit. But when you're first starting out, I say estimate 20% and you should be good as far as the fees. I do calculated like Dawn does. I was going to say that earlier and forgot. I keep the difference as well, and that does pay for my shipping supplies. I do not pass that on to the buyer, and I don't feel bad because if they went up to the USPS, to the post office, that's what they would pay. And I'm having to pay for boxes and bubble wrap and whatever I need to mail. So make sure that you're thinking of the fees. So I always say buy low. And like, if you're going to garage sales, bundle stuff. And, you know, as far as listing, list consistently, whether it's 1 or 2 a day. You want to keep your store always going. So make sure you are putting work into it, not just, you know, and don't think because you have 10 items listed, they're going to sell. I get people disappointed all the time. Oh, well, I'm up to 20 listings and nothing is sold. You know, well, it took me up to 500 to have regular sales. Some people, like I said, some people, I know a lot of people that have sold more than they have listed, which is amazing, but I don't find stuff like that. Or at least not stuff I'm interested in like that. So that's just not my business model. But you gotta start slow, but be consistent for sure. I'm gonna grab Troy's question, and then I see another super chat after this. Troy said, what do you guys think about starting a reselling business with as little money as possible, like a micro business?
I'm not sure exactly what that question means, but what I would say to it is that I cannot think in this day and age of any other business that you could start with such little money with so much potential upside than reselling. It's just, I can't think of anything.
I would agree with that for sure. I mean, I can get postcards for 2 cents a piece or less if I'm buying them in 10,000 at a time. There's so much out there. Again, like selling stuff from your house, you don't have anything into it at this point. The money's already gone. So if you start small like that, I know people don't like to hear that answer, but I started cheap. We started out of a necessity. I graduated, I earned a master's degree, and there wasn't anything out here. The economy crashed. So we went through our savings. So we literally started with just pennies when we first started. I mean, we did everything we could. We barely paid our bills for a few years with 2 kids. The kids ate good, and me and the wife just, you know, did what we had to. But we started off at bare bones. I was, you know, I didn't have a ton of money in the bank. It's not like today where we have bank accounts we have a purchase account. I mean, so it's not like that anymore. You've got to start out with your means, and you can go to a thrift store and spend $5 on 3 or 4 things on certain thrift stores and probably make $100 from that if you're smart, if you know what you're looking at, I guess.
Yeah, and I saw a couple of interesting things in the comments. Jackie said I started with $250 in a separate checking account, and I think there's something to be said for that because if you have 250 and you sell 500, put that 250 back into merchandise. Don't spend it on your bills or it's gone, and then you've got no merchandise. I went through that when I was first a dealer myself, and boy, when you suddenly realize I sold $1,000 and I have nothing to show for it and no merchandise, well, you wise up real fast. The other thing, I saw someone say I started with 3 hats. I mean, there was that thing about the guy who started with a paper clip and traded it all the way up till he ended up with a house.
The Craigslist story.
So it can be done with almost nothing. I've watched people start at flea markets and then become antique mall dealers and then start selling online. And then one I know ended up with a store of their own. And they've made a living at it for 40 years. And it was a young couple who literally had enough money to coast their car to the gas station in the town they ended up setting up in and scrambled, and they made it work. So it's a great business for that.
Yeah, I started with well under $500 and grew it into over 160,000 in inventory in about 2.5 years. And I did that by reinvesting it all while I was working because I knew I didn't want to stay in nursing. So it paid for my first shed. It paid for most of this big shed that I am in. It paid for all of the inventory because I kept reinvesting in, and I still do not, I pull what I need to pull and everything else goes back into the business with the intention of building it. But again, that depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to make money for vacation, you might want to pull a little more, but I agree with George. You should at least put the money back in to the inventory that you spent. What are you showing us, George?
Well, I just wanted to say also, don't be afraid to dumpster dive. I just got this 5 minutes before this show, and it's dated 1960, and it's actually a known artist, and it was literally in the garbage can. So you can start by going, I mean, go to Craigslist and look at free stuff for sale.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
you're in
you
a
can
big
start with
city,
zero.
yeah, you could get all stuff from free. Like, I'm an hour from any big city, but if you live in a big city, the free section of Facebook, like there are some groups for Gainesville that are all free. It's all free stuff. You could just get free stuff and not even have to actually spend money if you're willing to spend the time and go get it. I can't get into dumpsters because I can't get out. So I can't go. I have to have a friend. But I still, if I see something interesting on the side of the road, I'm going to pull over. Like I'm going to pull over. All right. Classic Rock Lover sent $5 super chat and said the dream team. Oh, I forgot Richard Dolphin. Hold on. He will have my head. Richard, I forgot your dolphin earlier. Here's your dolphin. Super chat. All right, now back to Classic Rock Lover. Sorry, Richard. Classic Rock Lover says the dream team of reselling. Thank you, everyone, for your time and efforts. You're welcome. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you all. Here is your dolphin. Super chat.
And you just got one more.
I'm grabbing the other one while I'm down here before I scroll back up. Karen Henderson sent $9.99 and said, Dom, Don, Cat, George, great group. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. Hit the like button if you haven't. We have over 700 in the chat. I appreciate all of you. Here is your dolphin, Miss Karen. Super chat.
And you got another one. You got another one. Just keep going.
$20 one. Okay, well, like keep doing. It's Miss Tiffany. Tiffany is one of my members. She sent a $20 super chat. I wanted to give you all a big thank you. I've learned so much and appreciate your knowledge. It's nice to find myself looking at things and recognizing them, and that has a lot to do with all of you. So, Tiffany, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Here is your dolphin. Super chat. That's how I learned and expanded. I just want to say, guys, it was by watching YouTube, and I made my YouTube because I was learning so much from other channels. I wanted to give that back. That is how I learned and learned. And if you want to learn about like one particular thing, I bet you money there's a channel about it. Like Dom has his comic, like his, how many episodes was that where you did with the comic store?
You mean where I went?
Mile
you mean
High.
the Mile High?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a 9-part series.
So, I mean, find a channel that does the one thing. I'm good if you want to learn a little bit about everything, but as soon as you think you know what I sell, I'm going to throw a curveball at you and go out in left field. I get bored easy, and that's why I love reselling, because I can keep changing what I'm doing. And if something's not selling, I can go find something else. And I've been doing it off and on since the 90s, but never. I wish I had stuck with it. I would probably be doing really amazing right now. But I got.
You are doing really amazing.
You are doing really amazing.
You know what I mean? I mean, it takes everything to get to where I've gotten to, so I don't regret anything. But, you know, sometimes I'm like, because I started in the 90s when it was still the money orders and people were mailing me cash. And, you know, I remember the good old days of when everything was auction, and then people started charging $100 in shipping to escape the fees. And that's why we have what we have now. Anyways, Melody said, I constantly get stalled figuring out my shipping costs. Should I just raise my selling price and offer free shipping?
This question is one that just causes so much emotion in the reselling community. The whole topic of free shipping versus calculated shipping. Really, you're going to just have to know the shipping cost. You're going to just have to master that. I mean, I remember when I first started trying to figure it out, I was wondering, like, how the heck do you make this work? Because a lot of shipping costs are, you know, pretty high for some things. And then I figured, oh, wait a minute, you could get discounted shipping if you print your shipping labels off of eBay, or, oh, wait a minute, you could get discounted insurance on your shipping if you ship it out through pirate ship, or, oh, wait a minute, I didn't realize that I could ship things up to, 16 ounces on, first class, or I didn't realize that this could go, that there's something called parcel select, or there's all these different things. So you have to basically master it and know what things are standard rates, no matter where they go across the country, which things are going to cost a certain amount extra if they're going a farther region away. You're going to have to know about flat rate envelopes, flat rate packages. Just know about what all your options are. And then you're going to get a sense pretty quickly, based on what it is you sell, how much these things are going to cost to ship. So for example, for us, average comic book or an average piece of jewelry is going to cost us like $3 and change to ship out. And we know that almost every jewelry piece is going to be 1 to 3 ounces almost. So, we just know that. And then that's real easy to factor into your costs. And you got to decide if you want to do it the calculated, or if you want to do it free shipping. So that's up to you. That's a personal decision. There's just, I don't know. The community is really divided on that. So I don't want to tell anyone what to do. Just do what, makes the most sense for your model.
Yeah, it depends on what you're selling for sure. The only thing I would say is if you're new, you need to weigh the item before you list it. I don't care so much about the cost. Like a comic book for me weighs 8 ounces if I mail it out. A postcard's 3 ounces. Jewelry, like Dom says, if it's a bracelet or something, it's usually 3 ounces as well. If I'm weighing out a book, I know how much cardboard is going to go around that book and how much the poly bags weigh. So I know my weights for pretty much anything I send out. I know how much any record I ship out, whatever size it is. All my 78s are 3 pounds. I do calculate it, so I never have to worry about anything else on it. The only thing I'd say too on those who do free shipping, if you're doing free shipping on collectibles, the majority of items sell with shipping charge for vintage and collectibles. The majority of them sell that way. That's because it goes back to the old school, like with Mile High Comics he was talking about. I used to order comic books from Mile High when I was a kid. So you already expected to have to pay for shipping on them. So I've kept that way with the items that we sell in the store I share. If you're selling clothing, it might be a different story, but I go by the weight, and I honestly recommend most people starting off calculated, because if the shipping prices change, you can't just go in, like if there's a $15 surcharge they're adding on because all the items you're selling are over a certain size, you're going to have to go in one by one and fix each one of those to compensate for that. So if they add anything else on it and you're doing calculated, you never have to worry. It's all calculated for you. So it's less work for me. And I know it's always going to be point on for dollar on what the cost is. And that's my take on it, because if you're wrong, you can't go and ask the buyer for more money. You got to eat the difference, and that's on you. That's not the buyer's fault if you priced it wrong. Yeah. So weigh out the item, know how much whatever it's going into weighs. And if you're not sure, weigh out the box or whatever you're putting it in with the amount of paper that it's going to take you to wrap that, and then add the item in and get a calculated weight or a direct actual weight before you even list the item. List and add when you list the item into it. I always recommend adding in the correct dimensions of the package, because if you're doing bulk shipping at the end, sometimes you can't adjust. If you combine items, you can't adjust the shipping size on combined items sometimes with the bulk shipping, because it's some glitch they still haven't fixed.
And have the box ahead of time that you're going to ship in. A lot of people get killed with that.
Yeah,
just make a box. Just make a box.
or make Frankenbox, but know how big it's going to have to be.
Yeah, that's where I've gotten caught so many times is, I think it'll fit in about this size box, and then I don't have that size box. So but truthfully, calculate is the way to go. I mean, I have to, because I'm in different places and I might be driving from one place to the next, and so it's going to ship from a different place than I'm at. And if I'm in Florida and they buy it and they're in Seattle, then it's going to cost a bunch. And if I'm in Seattle and they buy it and they're in Florida, it's going to cost a bunch. But if they're in the middle and I'm in the middle, it might cost very little. And how are you going to account for all of that? If you, I had one thing where I had a big heavy, it was something I got with Kat, and it had a big plexiglass case. And I ended up getting an offer from somebody saying, I can't, it was California pottery and I'm in Florida and it's going to California. And they're like, because of the dimensional shipping, the plexiglass case, even though it was put in it, it wasn't like, oh, it had to have that to be original. And they were like, I don't want that. And it's going to cost me $45 to ship it to California. So we took it out and it was like 20 bucks. So, you know, it's just easier if you let them do it.
Yeah, I think your problem is that you can't figure out your shipping cost. And I think raising your selling price, you're avoiding the issue, which is that you need to figure out how to figure out your shipping costs. You're not solving the problem by doing free shipping. You're still going to lose money if you're losing money, whether it's free or not. So calculated shipping that all of us are talking about is where you put in the dimensions of the box, you put in the weight, which, like Don said, I don't do it anymore. I'm not going to lie. I've done it so long. Unless it's something I'm not used to, I'm pretty good at knowing my weight. But put the box on the scale, put the item on the scale, put the bubble wrap on the scale, and then know, is it going in an 8x8? Is it going in a 10x10? The big thing is, if it goes over 12x12, it is oversized and it's going to cost an extra $10 up to $20. So if you do calculated, if you choose that option, you put in the dimensions of the box, you put in the weight, eBay is going to charge them the correct amount every time, and you don't need to figure it out. All you need to figure out are your package dimensions and your weight, and eBay will do the rest. It will calculate it for you. So that is what I should do. I think we're going to end up closing the show out with super chats, guys. We just got 4 of them come in. The first one is from Pajama Mama Miller, $9.99 super chat. Always so amazed by this group's generosity and sharing their time and knowledge. Thank you so much. Here is your dolphin. Super chat. And then Miss Maria Zeladon sent $19.99 super chat. Thanks for all the knowledge. You are very, very welcome. We appreciate you guys being here. Here's your dollar. Super chat. All right. And then Miss Eliza, $20 super chat. Thank you all for being here. I've learned so much from each of you. Got big love for you all. Eliza, thank you. We really appreciate it. Here is your dolphin. Super chat. Okay, we have 10 minutes still. I will tell you, I remember the last question. It was from over on Facebook, and they wanted to know if we do more auction or buy it now more.
Do we do more auction or buy it now more?
Yep.
Definitely buy it now. Rarely auction. With best offer on, by the way.
Yeah, same here. I almost never run an auction. If you check again, prices for the most part, bins will always be higher. Almost always, especially in vintage and collectibles, because I can put a high price on it. If there's only one person that's interested in your item and you run an auction, you're only getting your starting price. So I never, ever, ever try to do an auction unless I know it's going somewhere, like a vintage military or something, or uniform maybe, or something weird. But for the most part, I honestly don't recommend auctions to most everybody. Again, unless it's those really rare, really high dollar items that you're going to get at least a couple people that are going to want to do a pricing battle and get it up really high. If you check the solds and Terra Peak, you got to be careful. But if you check them and you dig into your categories you're in, you'll see that bins are the way to go.
Yeah, Don's actually completely right about that. Even though I do a lot of auctions, the reason I do them is, well, not a lot, but I do a video once a month for my members who pay extra for the privilege to see it first. And it is a video where I drop the items on eBay and they go on eBay the minute that they're watching the video, and they can immediately link over. And on those, I do auction or buy it now. It's kind of an experiment. And it's also because I'm driving traffic, so I feel confident that I'm going to get people who are going to be interested in bidding. If I was just doing it blindly to the public, I would probably avoid auctions and mainly do, list price best offer and give it a chance to find the person who was really serious about it.
Yeah, so I'm about 95% by it now. I have 2 auctions on right now. They're antique Chinese roundels that have over 80 watchers each. One is at $900, one is at $405. And I looked at the comps. There are not many. They are pretty rare. And one of them had 68 bids on a $100 start, ended at over $3,800. So I started mine at $100, and now I have over 80 watchers, and they're already, I mean, I paid $1. I'm hoping I will get $3,000, but where they're at now, I'm happy. But I had offers on, and I got offers as high as $825 before the first bid came in. So if you turn offer on, as soon as the first bid comes in, that offer option goes away, and $825 was not enough for me to say, no, I'm not going to see where this goes. So those 2 are sitting on auction. So I would say like if you're doing auctions, it needs to be something in demand that is rare. Like the people want to fight over. And if you do them, put them at the lowest starting price you are willing to accept. If you start at 99 cents, you better be willing to take 99 cents if you only get one bid. So I probably only, I run less than 5 auctions a month out of 4,000 listings. Very, very rare. And I have to, like, it helped me seeing, okay, one has sold in the last 90 days on auction, started at $100 and went over 3,000. So,
well,
go
and
ahead, George.
real quickly, I want to add to that, because you're talking about Asian art and artifacts, and you have something that turns out to be dynastic and it has forbidden stitch. Those are a bunch of things that maybe you know and maybe you're not sure. I have a friend who sells in that category, and he lists everything at $9.99 starting. Even if he paid $200 or $300 for something, he starts it at $9.99. But that's because he knows that what he's putting on is gonna get bid up. So he starts it at a really low bid, knowing that it's going to be so incredibly low for what it is. But that's because he's an expert in the field and he can identify that stuff. So if you have that market, you know, then you can do that stuff. Or if you have a big YouTube channel and can drive traffic, then you can play with that a little more. But if you're a regular person selling regular stuff, especially if you're just starting out, it's better to just ask for what you want.
Yeah, I agree. Like Jocelyn starts everything at $4, but she has 200,000 followers. So I see a lot of people making that mistake, thinking, "Oh, let me go start everything at $4," and they lose money. So if you don't have 200,000 subscribers, I would say start it at the lowest you're willing, but you're 99% of the time you're better off with buy it now. Mr. Larry, who is an amazing man I met in Cincinnati last year. He said a $10 super chat and said, that's the best way answer for why to use calculated shipping. I've said the same thing, but not as well as Dawn phrased it. Such a great group of knowledge, and this should be a must-see for new resellers. So Larry, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to find your dolphin. Here's your dolphin. Super chat. All right, one more. My good friend Clay. Clay said, hi, Kat, an esteemed gentleman, just catching the last few minutes. Today I spent $80 at the bin and turned it into $510 cash at my local spot. That is exactly, like, guys, you can do it in a day. You can go buy stuff at the bins or at a thrift store and take it to a consignment store and they'll pay you right then. Like, you can turn it into immediate cash with a lot of this. There's so many ways to do reselling, so many ways. And if one way is not working, you could try another way. So that is amazing, Clay. I'm very, very happy to hear it. Here is your dolphin. And then I see a member, and then I'm going to let these gentlemen say goodbye because we are right at closing time. Super chat. All right. I have not got to play my member dolphin all night. So I will put this, and then I will let these gentlemen tell you what they've got going on. I will tell you what I've got coming up, and then we are here every Tuesday, so don't forget it. Here, Miss Anna, is your dolphin. Welcome to the flipping family. All right. So Don and Dom, thank you so much for coming on. I greatly enjoyed it. And George, as always, and George, I'll see you in a few weeks at camp.
Yay.
At the mansion. We get to hang out. That will be so fun. All right, here is, oh, Dom, you have a show tomorrow, right? Tell everybody what you have going on.
Yeah, definitely. There was a mention a couple times in the chat tonight about retail arbitrage. Well, tomorrow night I have got the king of extreme retail arbitrage coming out of my channel, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you've never heard or seen of Richie Hustles, you have got to check out what this guy is doing. It is just on another plane, on another level. It's incredible. Definitely worth coming by, checking out tomorrow night. So I hope to see many of you at the live show.
All right, here's Dawn.
I do live shows on Thursday nights, every Thursday. I usually put a video out every day. I do have a Patreon account, which is a paid membership. I do write for e-commerce bites and a few other places as well. But again, I'll have a new video out tomorrow. I do a lot of Bolo videos and stuff like that. I also like to thank Kat and obviously George for having me on as well. It was an honor to be on, and I do appreciate it.
All right, here is Mr. George.
Well, Don, you were just great. And Dom, you too. I really enjoyed doing this with you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Kat, for having me co-host for a couple weeks. This has been a lot of fun. I have my next video release every Monday and Wednesday at 8 Eastern. I do a premiere with live chat. You're all welcome to catch that. Tomorrow's video is where Jocelyn from Crazy Lamp Lady and I went shopping at Renegers North up in Pennsylvania, and wow, did she buy some amazing stuff. So I think you'll have fun with that. After that, I'm going to appear on a few channels. In April, I've got the camp with Kat. I've got an appraisal fair coming up, so just stick with the community tab on my channel, and I'll try to let you know where I'm going to be. And
you and Kat will both be back for Thrift Battle coming up.
That's right.
Oh yeah, we are both. Annie Vaughn, Thrifty Rich, that was here. A lot of us are friends in the top 8, so it'll be
down to the Elite 8 now.
Friendly competition. And as far as Orlando camp is officially completely sold out, guys, so there are no spots for that. And as far as Tennessee camp in May, there is 1 private room left and several. Oh, Zeno's chiming in, the niche lady on Monday.
Yes, I forgot that. I am going to be on Danny's channel talking about appraisals. I'm sorry, Danny. Thank you very much. I'm glad he threw that in.
Speaking of Thrift Battle memories.
Yes.
Oh, and speaking of Danny too. Yeah, Danny is my guest speaker at my May Tennessee camp along with Thrifting Vegas. So both of those ladies will be in Tennessee with me. And hopefully George will have to come back for another camp. There are no more camps. Yes, George does offer appraisals on his website, you guys. And in all of us, Don, do you just do the Patreon or do you have a channel membership too?
No, I never did the channel membership. I keep saying I'm going to do it. I've had the ability to add one on for years, but I've just been on the Patreon. It works very well. The fees aren't as high with what YouTube takes out, and it was a monetary issue. Plus, I can do things a little more freer, and I don't have to publish videos, so I can publish some videos that I couldn't publish on YouTube.
That makes sense. So the other 3 of us all have channel memberships that give you guys extra bonus stuff. So check those out as well. Next week, Julian will be back as a married man. Sorry, ladies. And Julian and I will be doing a live meet and greet next Monday in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at Surfside Salvation Army at 10 a.m. if you're close to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then next week we will have, I just had it and I forgot that fast. Cha-Ching King is back and Paul's Flipping Sports guy. I'm going to have another all guy panel again next week. So we will see you guys next week at 8 p.m. and every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all for coming. We will see you next time.